When Gary Trent Jr. was traded for Norman Powell, we all thought that the Toronto Raptors lost the trade and that the Blazers were the clear winners. But just a couple of weeks after the trade deadline, it seems like there's an obvious winner in Gary Trent Jr. and the Toronto Raptors. In today's video, we will discuss Gary Trent Jr.'s amazing play with the Raptors and what the future is going to look for them. But before we get into the video, please make sure to subscribe. Subscribing helps the channel a lot. Make sure to hit that like button and turn on the bell so you guys get my videos right away. Thanks for all the support shown on the last video, and with all that being said, let's get right into the video. On March 25th, 2021, the Raptors traded away Norman Powell for Gary Trent Jr. and Rodney Hood. Now, while both Norman and Gary are similar in play style, Gary is a much younger player and has way more potential as he's only 22 years old. When this trade originally happened, we all thought that it was an equal trade, and some were even saying that the Raptors took the L in this trade. But it's been looking like a very positive trade for the Raptors, with Gary Trent Jr. averaging 17.9 points, 1.7 assists, and 3.4 rebounds per game while shooting 40% from 3. Already with the Toronto Raptors, Gary Trent Jr. has proven that he is the next big star for this Raptors team alongside Kyle Lowry and Fred VanVleet. Just yesterday, the Toronto Raptors played the Cleveland Cavs, and Gary erupted for 44 points, 4 assists, and 7 rebounds while only missing 2 shots. That's so crazy to think about. Gary shot 17 for 19 from the field, and his only 2 missed shots were from 3, as he shot 7 for 9. Do you guys understand how crazy that is? He scored 44 points and only missed 2 shots. And those 2 shots were those 3s he missed. I don't know about you guys, but scoring 44 points with only 2 missed shots is something legendary. And there is a lot of potential with Gary Trent on this Raptors team. When they played the Cavs yesterday, Lowry was out alongside with Fred VanVleet, so it made it easier for Gary Trent to go out there and just be himself and lead the team. But this is very positive news, as even when basically all 3 main stars, Pascal Siakam was resting, Fred VanVleet was out with injury, and Lowry was out with injury, we can now rely on Gary Trent Jr. to, lead the team, and, you can get an easy win even when all 3 players are sitting out. But this isn't the only game by Gary Trent Jr. with the Raptors. He's had multiple 20 and 30 point games, including a game winner. It feels like Gary Trent Jr. has gotten on the right situation and the right team, as I feel like the real reason why Gary Trent Jr. wasn't as appreciated, or a lot of people didn't talk about him, was because he played on the Portland Trail Blazers. He had to play behind, stars, like real superstars as Damian Lillard and CJ McCollum. So, he was basically the third option on the team. Some could even argue that. So, he couldn't play out his full potential on the Trailblazers, and I feel like Gary Trent Jr. is happy to be with the Raptors, as his body language, facial expressions, it seems like this is the break he needed. The best part of this all is Gary's only in his 3rd year. That's so crazy to think about. There's not many 3rd-year players that are playing like Gary Trent Jr. and with the confidence and poise he is playing with. It just makes me so happy. A lot of people always talk about the fact that, the Raptors are going to tank. Raptors, they're probably not going to make the playoffs this year, but everyone always wants to talk about how the Raptors need to call it quits, throw away the whole team and go into a rebuilding mode. But no, look at the pieces on this team. There's Kyle Lowry, he's still got a couple of good years, and if he doesn't leave in the offseason, you got Fred VanVleet, who you just signed to an $80 million deal. You've got him locked up for the next 3 years at least. You got Pascal Siakam looking for a big contract soon, so he's probably going to stay with the Raptors. The pieces are there, and now with great Gary Trent Jr., he just provides a whole nother depth for this team. And especially now, they're probably, not going to make the playoffs, so they're going to get a good, decent pick in the draft. So I don't know what people are talking about blowing this team out and hitting the reset button. Honestly, it feels like it's just the start of the new Raptors era with, Gary Trent Jr. and all these pieces. Especially they're going to get, at least a top 10 pick in the draft. So that's going to be another plus for this team. And the bench depth they have, the Raptors are really underappreciated and an underrated team. I know they've been losing a lot this year, but honestly, it's just because of the missing pieces. The Raptors needed somebody exactly like Gary Trent Jr. because a lot of games, if you guys watch, A lot of people don't know this, but I am a Toronto Raptors fan. In a bunch of games, Fred VanVleet, Lowry, and Siakam all struggle to score, and Gary Trent Jr. is basically what they need, a true scorer that can get you bucket anytime. Like I said again, against the Cavs yesterday, he shot 7 for 9 from 3. He can hit tough step backs, he could get to the paint, get to the foul line. He could basically do it all. He's a pure scorer. Even on the defensive side, he is underrated, but honestly, I feel like Norman Powell was a great addition to this Raptors team when he used to play on it, but this is just an upgraded version of Powell and a younger version of Norman Powell. And honestly, I do believe that Trent did grow up a little bit in Toronto because his father was traded from the Heat. His dad basically had the same exact story as him, played for the Trailblazers. I believe in his 3rd season, he also got traded to the Raptors. So I do believe that, that is a little bit of a cool story as well, going full circle. So, he's comfortable with the city of Toronto. He probably grew up a little bit there. The next steps, I believe, for Toronto is to look for a decent center in the offseason. They're playing Chris Boucher at the center position most of the time, even though that's not his real position. And Aaron Baines is not what we expected at all. He's having a very disappointing season and can't do much for this Raptors team. Even Utah wannabe, he's had to step up and come in, even with minimum NBA experience. He's doing his job, I guess, but the Raptors need a real center, some real center presence that could defend against his better teams such as the Lakers with Andre Drummond and just bigger teams overall, because the Raptors size isn't all there. All the guards are about 6'1", and the tallest player is probably Aaron Baines at just around 7 foot. And no, I don't want to hit the reset button on this team. This team has the same core that it had when it won the NBA championship, and I just think that this was an off season, an off year for a bunch of the stars on this team. So no need to hit the reset button. Just keep getting, better every single day. Get a good pick in the off season, in the draft. Get a decent center. Hopefully pick up somebody, maybe like a, JaVale McGee if you can get him somehow. Just any center that can rebound, maybe Dwight Howard. All you need is that rebounding, and this team is going to go on to another level. But this is going to end out the video. Thank you guys for all the support shown. I'm trying out other videos other than LaMelo, Lonzo, LiAngelo, and the Ball family, and it seems like it's working all because of you guys. So make sure to subscribe, hit that like button, and turn on the bell, because you guys are the reason this channel keeps continuing to strive. And with all that being said, this is going to end out the video. Comment in the comment section. I want to hear your guys' thoughts on Norman Powell's trade and Gary Trent Jr. and the Raptors' future. And with all that being said, I'm out. Peace.